And I suppose it matters a tiny little bit to people today, but not really. This one I absolutely love because natum ex illegitimo concubitu, meaning that the parents lived together but weren't married. So born out of an illegitimate cohabitation, which I thought was very interesting. But yeah, they were not going to just let it go that this child was born to these people. There was an insistence on the precise circumstances. Here's an unusual one that kind of made me cry. This was actually from a death record. So it's basically a baby was discovered abandoned and deceased in the public street. Nobody claimed it. Well, they have to create a record for it. So they didn't just create a death record for like unknown infant the way maybe later in the US, I've seen some records, for like no name, but they had to be so clear that it was found in a public street. Now, this issue of the foundlings is so fascinating to me. They always were given invented names. Well, some of them were pretty hurtful. I mean, how hard is it to translate bastardo? Many of the foundling names meant unwanted, rejected, thrown out, abandoned, exposed. When I was young, I lived in Chicago. I was a Chicago Blackhawks fan, and one of the players was Phil Esposito. And I later come to find out that his name means exposed, left out. So he must have had a foundling ancestor.
Yeah, my wife's grandfather was Proietto from Sicily. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a foundling name.
One of the words they would often put on the foundling records is trovatello, found. So like it was left at the church door or was sometimes left at the midwife. And I know we've talked about this before, Bob, but there's a really fascinating cultural invention they called it the wheel. And it was various names, sometimes the golden wheel. Here they're calling it the ruota dei proietti, the wheel of the cast out ones. So this was like a lazy Susan inside the wall or the door of the church. And, you put the baby in, turn the wheel, baby goes inside to be looked after by, well, priests, not so perfect, but they would eventually then find a midwife or someone to take care of the child, and that the child would have to be, become a public charge. But I do like seeing on the wheel of the cast out ones, there were so many different ways they had in these records of basically saying this person has no name, incognito, that's an Italian word we have in English, ex ignotus or just ignotus, from unknown. And then some of them are like the word you just said, proietta, thrown out, genitori ignoti, parents unknown. This is my favorite one, filius populi, child of the people. That's a euphemism if I ever heard one. No,
yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that before, child of the people. Yeah.
These literally are children, babies that have no name. I mean, we don't really, children born out of wedlock today usually take their mother's name. These children had no name until it was assigned. So like Oliver Twist, somebody had to give them their names, and the names they gave them tended to be very fanciful, have to do with the month that they were found or something like that. They were clearly labeled, however, as that. But sometimes their name is this word, trovatello or proietto or esposito. It's just, wow. So anyway, one of the things I found, Bob, was that gypsies didn't get last names either. Their names were all first name and then the Italian word for gypsy, as if that's all you need. And if you go on Ancestry today, there are thousands of people whose surname is Zingaro.